Back inside, you put the kettle on even though there's no tea. It's just hot water, but it feels civilized. Your daughter falls asleep on your shoulder, and for a moment, just a moment, you let yourself believe that maybe, just maybe, it will all still end before your children grow up to forget what the world looked like before the war. The days blur now, threaded together by sirens, scarcity, and routine. You keep going, because what else is there? Even your dreams have adjusted. They no longer feature peace, or escape, or freedom. Just cues, always cues. You wake, brush your teeth with baking soda, and pack your lunch. A piece of stale bread and a sliver of turnip. If you're lucky, a neighbor will sneak you an egg. Not as a gift. Nothing is free now, but as a gesture, part of the unspoken barter economy that pulses beneath everything. One act of quiet kindness at a time. The neighborhood children wear brown uniforms now. You see them marching, singing those eerie, cheerful songs, half nursery rhyme, half battle cry. Your daughter joins in one day, mouthing lyrics she doesn't understand. You smile and gently change the subject. Do you want to draw something instead? But she keeps singing. And you wonder, not for the first time, if she's already slipping away from you into someone else's version of childhood. School is different. Her lessons focus less on reading and more on loyalty. The teacher asks strange questions. What do you love most about the Führer? What would you do if someone insulted Germany? You wince at her answers, not because they're wrong, but because they sound so confident, so rehearsed. Historians still debate how deep the indoctrination really went, how many believed and how many pretended. For children, it's impossible to tell. They're malleable, impressionable, like warm wax. The state molds them eagerly, quickly, and completely. You see it in the drawings that come home. Eagles, tanks, flags, all in perfect, chilling symmetry. Then there's the Hitler Youth. Your son, Eric, joined last year. At first he was just excited about the camping trips and uniforms. You didn't protest. No one does. Refusing would raise suspicion, maybe worse. So you signed the form, kissed his forehead, and told yourself it was harmless. Now he barely speaks to you. He reports things, tiny things. A neighbor's odd comment, a missing photo of the Führer in someone's hallway. He talks about duty, honor, strength. You used to talk about comic books and bicycles. That feels like someone else's life. One evening he asks you flatly, do you think Germany will lose the war? You freeze. What's the right answer? You deflect. Why do you ask? But he's already written something in his notebook. The family dinner table feels colder now. You eat together, but the warmth has gone. Every word is measured, every silence suspicious. Even laughter feels rehearsed, like lines from a poorly written play. And yet, on Sundays, the city still tries to pretend. Families stroll in the park. Couples sit on benches. You even hear a street musician once playing a quiet accordion tune. It lasts 5 minutes before 2 officers walk by and the man disappears. The fringe detail you cling to this week. Someone's been planting paper flowers around the city. Tiny, delicate blooms made from ration wrappers, left in cracks between bricks. No one talks about them, but you see one tucked into the corner of a street sign. A daisy. It almost makes you cry. You pass the church on your way to market. Its doors are open, but the sermons are different now. The pastor is younger, louder, and more political. Gone are the quiet hymns of mercy. Instead, it's obedience, duty, and sacrifice. You nod along because someone's always watching. Still, in the back pew, the old priest still lights candles each morning, quietly, without fanfare. He prays with his eyes closed. You sit near him once and ask, "Do you still believe?" He smiles faintly and says, "I believe we'll need forgiveness when this is over." The radio remains your main tether to the outside world. Each night, you listen for updates. The broadcasts are full of confidence. Victories on the Eastern Front, Allied setbacks, speeches filled with metaphors about wolves and steel. But you're not stupid. You hear the tremble behind the bluster. You know desperation when you hear it. Some brave soul in your building listens to the BBC. Illegally, of course. You hear the signal bleed through the walls, distorted but unmistakable. You hold your breath when it happens. Just hearing a British accent feels like treason. And yet, it's like a breeze from an open window. Brief, dangerous, and refreshing. You walk past the train station more often now. Trains come and go without names, without schedules, without passengers you ever see again. One day, you glimpse a carriage filled with blank faces. Children maybe, or prisoners. No one says anything. The guards look bored. Historians still argue whether the average German knew what was happening to the Jews. The full horror, the camps, the extermination. You only know fragments. That one family on your street disappeared overnight. That someone whispered about cattle cars. That a friend of a friend smuggled out a letter, half burned, soaked in fear. But when you ask questions, the answers are always the same. Don't, or worse, be careful. You go to work. You go home. You avoid eye contact with the officials. You avoid speaking too freely. You avoid hoping too loudly. Life becomes a careful negotiation between survival and silence. And yet, in the midst of all this greyness, there's a birthday. Your daughter turns 7. You manage to scrounge together enough sugar for a tiny cake. Just flour, water, jam from last year's cherries. You wrap her present in old newspaper, one of your scarves, dyed pink with beetroot. She squeals with delight. For a moment, everything feels normal. You cry into the dishwater that night. At bedtime, she asks if the war will end soon. You say yes. Of course, yes. And then you lie awake wondering if she'll believe you the next time you say it. The morning brings snow. It's early, unexpected. Your boots are full of holes, but the snow covers the bomb craters, the broken glass, the bloodstains. For a moment, the world looks clean again. You step outside and breathe in the cold. And just before the wind picks up, you hear laughter. From a balcony, 2 children throwing snowballs. One hits a passing officer square in the back. He pauses, turns, and laughs. It's so absurd you nearly choke. Then the wind howls and you wrap your coat tighter. Just another day in Nazi Germany, and still you endure. Morning fog clings to the rooftops like a blanket that refuses to lift, as if even the weather's trying to dull the edges of another grey day. You've gotten good at deciphering silence, knowing when a neighbour is too quiet, or when a glance lasts half a second too long. Paranoia isn't a disorder anymore. It's a form of hygiene. You press through the market crowd. Cabbages, rutabagas, and endless stacks of ersatz everything. Coffee that tastes like burnt acorns. Bread that crumbles like chalk. You hand over your ration card and smile like you're grateful. You aren't. But the woman behind the stall is just as tired as you, and that's enough. At home, the walls feel closer than usual. Your building used to house 3 families per floor. Now it's 7. 2 families moved in last week, evacuees from a city hit by British bombs. They brought nothing but a child's mattress, a pan, and a haunting silence. You offer them soup. They offer you a cigarette. It's not tobacco, but no one complains. The city's rhythms have changed. Everything now follows 2 tempos. The slow grind of daily life and the sharp staccato shock of sirens. Air raids don't scare you anymore, not exactly. But they've redefined what counts as normal. The drills, the blackout curtains, the sprints to basements and shelters. This is just Tuesday now. When the sirens sound, you know what to grab. Your coat, your papers, the bag with crackers and iodine tablets. Your daughter holds your hand too tightly. Your son stands stiff, like a soldier already. You all breathe shallowly, as if you're trying not to wake the bombs. Historians still argue whether Allied bombings were strategic brilliance or blind brutality. You only know the aftermath. Fires that suck the air from entire rooms. Buildings folded like playing cards. Streets filled with dust that smells like metal. And something worse. You don't ask what. You don't want to know. During one raid, the building next to yours vanishes. 1 second, it's there, with its crooked shutters and dusty flower boxes. The next, it's just noise, rubble, and a rising wall of smoke. You don't even scream. You just count your fingers, your children's heads, and thank a God you haven't prayed to in years. Later, you help dig. You know the names of the people under there, but you say nothing. You just pass bricks. Your hands bleed. No one offers a bandage. That night, the sirens don't come. You dream of wind and water. Something clean. The fire brigade still operates, though barely. Their hoses are more hope than pressure, and half their team is teenage boys. But they arrive. They always do. Covered in soot, coughing, shouting half commands. You admire them the way you used to admire athletes. Somehow, through all of it, the bureaucracy still functions. You receive a notice. Your home will be inspected for wartime readiness. You clean like it's a royal visit. The inspector arrives with a clipboard and dead eyes. He checks your blackout curtains, asks about your shelter supplies, then stares at a family photo for a few beats too long. You resist the urge to move it. The inspector leaves without comment. You exhale like you've been underwater. There's one tiny joy, the stray cat that's taken up residence in the stairwell. No one claims it, but everyone feeds it. A sliver of sausage here, a drop of milk there. The children call her Lotta. She sleeps curled on a coat someone left by the boiler. You don't trust most people anymore, but somehow everyone trusts Lotta. In the evenings, if the sky is quiet, you play cards. Sometimes you even let yourself laugh. Your neighbor tells a joke about Goebbels and a dentist. It's barely funny, dangerously risky, and you snort anyway. Then you spend 5 minutes in panic, hoping no one heard. This is how you live now. Between fear and fragments of joy, you hear rumors from the front. Whispers that the Russians are pushing west, that the Americans have landed, that Hitler hasn't been seen in weeks. But then the newsreels show him again, waving stiffly, surrounded by flags and marching boots. You can't tell if it's live or recycled. There's a fringe story going around. Someone swears that a man in your city built a working radio out of scrap wire and a biscuit tin, just to listen to Allied broadcasts. You hope it's true. Not because of the radio, but because it means someone still has that kind of hope, that kind of brain. One morning, a new poster appears across from your tram stop. It's not the usual proud, square-jawed soldier or the smiling housewife with perfect posture. This one's dark, a silhouette. The words read, "They are watching." No explanation, no name, just that. You stare at it too long. A passerby clears their throat. You move on. Historians still argue whether the average German felt complicit, whether silence equals guilt. You aren't sure. You're too busy surviving. But you've stopped calling yourself innocent. You watch your son try to shave with a spoon and a shard of mirror. He says it's for drill. You remember when he used to cry when his knees got scraped. Now he practices marching in the hallway. He doesn't flinch at loud noises anymore. That scares you more than the bombs. In the closet, behind the coats, you keep your box of before. A cinema stub, a pressed flower, a postcard from the Black Forest. You open it once a week, just to remember that those things existed, that they weren't just stories. Sometimes you whisper foreign words under your breath. French, English, Russian, words you once studied in school, before languages became suspect. They taste strange now, forbidden, like chocolate. Like a distant cousin writes you from the countryside. Their village is quiet. The cows still give milk, and the stars are brighter out there. You imagine it while eating watery soup by candlelight. You don't even like cows. but now they sound like a miracle. The moon rises blood orange tonight. Your daughter says it looks like an eye. You don't correct her. She's not wrong. Before bed, you tuck her in with the same lullaby your mother sang to you. It's not German. It has no politics. Just a melody that drifts and folds around her small breath. She clings to your hand for a moment, then lets go, and you sit there in the dark, listening to the quiet, and you wonder, if the world ends tomorrow, will anyone know you try to stay kind? The train doesn't whistle anymore. You stand on the platform with a paper bag of stale bread and a travel permit that smells like damp ink. The air tastes of coal and boiled cabbage. Nothing festive, nothing hopeful. The destination is vague, the schedule hazier. You've been relocated, a word that used to mean vacation, but now means surrender. Inside the compartment, there's barely space to breathe. You're pressed between an old man who hasn't blinked since Leipzig and a woman cradling a bundle that might be a baby or just all her possessions. No one asks. Asking invites stories, and stories lead to consequences. The train groans forward. It moves like it's apologizing. Through the dirty windows, fields pass by, blank, indifferent, interrupted only by occasional rows of trees, like mute sentinels. You used to love these forests. Now you wonder what they've seen, or buried. A uniformed guard checks papers with the grace of a tired butcher. He flips yours twice, furrows his brow at your last name, and moves on without a word. Your breath stays held another 30 seconds, just in case he changes his mind. You're sent to a village that looks like it came out of a postcard before someone burned the edges. White-walled houses, low stone fences, and suspiciously tidy flower beds. It should be charming. Instead, it feels like a place trying too hard to seem normal. You're lodged with a widow who speaks in whispers and walks like her bones remember a better war. There's work, of course. Endless, punishing work. You're assigned to a munitions factory, not making bombs exactly, but making the pieces that make the bombs work. Screws, casings, fuses. The machinery hums like a threat, constant and deafening. You try to focus, try not to think about what your hands are helping assemble. Historians still argue whether average workers knew what their factories produced, whether ignorance was real or just convenient. You know now that it's not about knowledge, it's about survival. You learn not to ask. The fewer details you absorb, the more sleep you get. There's something uniquely terrible about the rhythm of forced labor. It's not just the hours or the cold or the noise. It's the way every part of your body screams no, and still you keep going. Because someone's watching. Because you need the bread. Because your children are somewhere else, waiting for word that might never come. And yet, people adapt. It's absurd. How humans adjust. You find a rhythm. You know how to angle your wrist so the machine doesn't sting. You know which foreman is more lenient. You know that if you give your lunch bread to old Frau Wimmer, she'll fix your torn sleeve in the evening without asking. At night, you gather with the others in the kitchen. The stove gives off barely enough warmth to fight the chill. But it's something. Someone hums a folk tune. Someone else mends socks with thread pulled from curtains. You almost laugh when one woman repurposes a swastika armband as a pot holder. Almost. The children here are different. Hollow-eyed and twitchy, they mimic adults with eerie precision. One boy recites propaganda slogans like a bedtime story. A girl plays interrogation with her doll. You wonder if they'll ever know what childhood really was, or if they'll just carry the shadow of this war into whatever comes next. There's a rumor that someone nearby hides a shortwave radio. No one dares confirm it, but you notice how sometimes the conversations shift. People suddenly mention names they shouldn't know. A British victory here, a Soviet push there. You say nothing. You listen. Food is tighter now. Ersatz meat becomes a luxury, replaced with lard smeared on crusts. Coffee is a lie. Sugar is a myth. You lose weight without noticing until your reflection looks like a memory. And still, the factory calls, the machines clatter, and the days bleed into each other like dirty watercolors. One afternoon, the air raid sirens blare, but this time, the bombs fall closer. The sky tears open, and you dive into a ditch with 3 strangers. One is sobbing, one is praying, one is whistling an old dance tune like this is some surreal variety show. You close your eyes and picture the ocean. You've never seen it, but you pretend it's calm. When the dust settles, the factory's gone, reduced to metal bones and scorched earth. They'll send you somewhere else, of course. There's always more war to build. But for a day, you sit in the debris and let the silence speak. The widow you lodge with finally tells you about her husband. He died in Poland. She doesn't say how. You don't ask. But you see the way her hands shake when she buttons your collar, the way she avoids your eyes when the radio speaks Polish names. Her grief is a quiet ghost that lives in the corners of her house. A local school is converted into a hospital for wounded soldiers. You volunteer to help, partly for the food, partly for the distraction. You bandage wounds you don't understand, serve soup you can't taste, listen to groans you can't forget. Some men scream in their sleep, some whisper confessions you pretend not to hear. There's one soldier missing a leg and half a face. He tells you very calmly that he saw angels during the shelling. You believe him, or at least you want to. Because if angels are real, maybe hell is optional. You get letters sometimes, blurred, censored, words blacked out like guilty secrets. You hold on to them like prayer beads. Your daughter says she's learning to knit. Your son drew a picture of the cat. You tape it to the wall above your cot. It's crooked and smudged and the best thing you've seen in months. Your sleep is shallow and brittle. Every creak becomes a knock. Every gust of wind sounds like marching boots. But you keep going. Because you must. Because even ashes still carry the shape of what they used to be. And when the snow starts falling, soft and silent, you step outside in the dark and let it land on your face. For a moment, it feels like the world is washing itself clean.